You are listening to Storymakers, the podcast for women who are ready to step into their true identity, live with meaningful purpose, find belonging and connection, grow in leadership, and walk boldly in faith. Here you can uncover the story that you were created to live because you were made for such a time as this. A lot of women try to change their lives by focusing on what they want less of. I know men do this too, but I work with a lot of women and hear this language of, I want less weight, less chaos, less stress, less exhaustion and overcommitment, less spending, less debt, And I get it. And it feels really practical to say that, right? It seems that it's right that we want less of these negative things. But the problem with the mindset of that is that it keeps you at a loss. And I don't know, it's like you need to be in the driver's seat, heading someplace. And so when you are driving towards loss, you don't have as much momentum or even inspiration. I think it's actually just maybe unnatural to try to move forward and be inspired to have less of something. And I think that when we refocus on what the gain could be, just flip the coin over. Same coin, but flip the coin over and see what could the gain be instead of focusing on the loss. We end up managing the damage or the negative instead of actually building a life that we want to live. And I look at that, it's the difference between reactive and creative. You just move the C around, move it over 3 decimals. So living reactively looks like driving forward by using the rearview mirror instead of the windshield. And you've probably heard that metaphor before. But driving forward and being creative, it's being proactive. It's forward motion. We're actually looking through the windshield and looking in the direction the tires of the car are taking us. So I want to talk about shifting from a loss-based decision-making mindset to gain-based. Because the sustainable change that we're looking for, the actual transformation, the getting from point A to point B as effectively and efficiently as we can, it's not going to come from focusing on fixing all the things that are wrong. It comes from knowing, what do I actually want to gain? Letting that desire rise up and lead you, which feels great. I'm moving towards something I want instead of constantly trying to move away from something I don't want. And desire is not the problem. I would think the better way to put that is vague desire. It's like suppressed desire. It's there, it's in you, but when it's vague, you don't have any clarity about it because you don't think about it. You don't define it, or you suppress it because you think having a desire for anything is wrong, then it's not the fact that there is no desire, it's the fact that you are not giving it any attention. Also, I would say borrowed desire. Somebody else has this and we want what they have, or somebody else wants us to have something, so we feel like we should. Desire that doesn't have clarity around it ends up feeling like pressure from other people. It ends up looking like comparison, which, I always say that comparison bears 2 kinds of fruit. It's pride or pain. And I'm better than you, or I'm not as good as you. Those are the only 2 kinds of fruit you can get from comparison. Or just trying to do things out of our own self-discipline, our willpower. It's the striving and the effort that, we need to put effort in, but it's different when we're striving out of that effort rather than walking from a place of creative, inspired, faithful, peaceful action taking, And when you don't know what you really want, you can default to reacting to what you don't want, what is hurting you, what doesn't feel good. And so you're always trying to like live life like you're trying to stop the bleeding on your arm from this cut instead of what's it going to take to keep myself from getting cut and build strength in that arm, build up the muscle. So we're not looking at what do we need to stop doing. The first question that we need to ask is, what do you want to gain? What do you desire? And I think the first time I ever had this real aha moment was maybe like a Dove commercial. Dove has kind of changed their marketing over the years, which I love. And like all body types, all women, like all skin deserves to be cared for kind of thing. And trying to reduce body shame and self-hatred. And I love that direction. And I think once there was a commercial that said something about, instead of looking at what you think you need to lose, think about what you have to gain. So having something that you're moving towards because you want it, because it's something that you can gain, creates energy that feels like it brings alignment. It feels spacious and like there's freedom instead of trapped. It feels calm instead of feeling like it's what would be the right word for that? I just think of like overcharged with the wrong energy in it, right? So your body and your emotions feel supported when you look at what you want and how to get it. So when you have a life that's always out of alignment, you are going to be constantly trying to manage that alignment. That causes the overwhelm. That causes decision fatigue. That makes us really tired. It makes us want to buffer. It makes us want to suppress all of the things that we don't like feeling. So that getting into alignment means being honest. And God knows what is in your heart. And so unless you're honest with what is in your heart that you desire to have, create, do, gain, anything, if you're not honest with yourself and God, then you'll never get into a healthy alignment with His will for your life because you're not honest. And especially when you're not honest because you feel shame around it, or you feel like you don't have enough worth, you don't deserve it, or you think it's wrong, or you think it's selfish for you to have a desire. That desire is still there. Just because you suppress it doesn't make it go away. It just makes it a suppressed desire. It just keeps it vague, right? It just keeps it a borrowed desire. So when you can actually determine what you want, and I do coaching around this, I work with people who are like, I literally don't know what I want. If I were to say, describe your point A, they might be able to do that. But if I say, is there a point B you would like to move towards? So many people are like, probably, but I don't know what it is. I've never thought about it. I didn't know I had permission to think about it. I never took time to think about it, right? Especially moms and wives who just have the opportunity and gifts of being able to take care of other people and help them get what they want. The internal desire, it has, sometimes they're just the message. Nobody even has to tell you this message. It's human nature to think, well, it might be selfish for me to have a desire because what if I want that and it means somebody else I love can't have what they want? And that doesn't feel aligned. And what it turns into is 20 years from now, you feel bitter and resentful that you never got what you wanted. But realizing that sometimes what you want is for other people to get what they want. And it's okay to say that. At least you know what you want. And you're making a decision from like personal responsibility and personal agency instead of I'm a victim of what everybody else wants. So when you name it and you say, this is what I want and this is what I want to gain, right? Again, we're looking at not just learning how to name what you want and knowing you have permission to want something, but looking at what you want as something that is the mindset of gaining something that's good for you, not losing something you think is bad. So your decisions around that start changing, and your thoughts around it. And boundaries don't feel as restrictive Because when you set up a boundary around something you have to gain, it's like you're protecting something that you actually value, right? Instead of I am trying to self-protect around I can't ever have that again. It's a deprivation boundary. I don't do good with deprivation. Tell me I can't have it. Tell me I can't do it. And there's some kind of resistance is going to rise up in me and say like, well, then never mind. So I really have a high value for freedom. And when you are looking at things with a gain, what I have to gain mindset, then rest doesn't feel like weakness. You don't feel like I have to quit or I have to give up. I can actually just rest because you learn that rest actually helps you move towards what you have to gain. And creating structure in your life to gain it doesn't feel like control. It actually feels like you're creating safety for the thing that you want to gain, safety for the life that you want to have, safety for the thing that you desire in your heart, right? So things like having boundaries, creating structure, and making time for rest, these are things that don't feel like they're deprivation or they are resisting you. So you don't have to live from that. You can actually live from, wow, I have freedom, and I actually take action to protect what I care about and feel, make the thing that I'm working towards feel safe and inspiring and joyful. And instead of making decisions from a place of sheer willpower and then shaming yourself that you didn't have enough self-discipline to stick with it, you make decisions out of a place of protecting the journey, clarifying the journey, preparing for the journey. And when you know what you have to gain, then all your decisions will answer the question of what does this gain that I'm working towards need in order for it to be successful, fruitful, sustainable? How do I keep this gain? Once I gain it, how does it, stay something that I still have a year or 5 from now? So your decisions support all the clarity, and your gain stays kind of in front of you. It doesn't get stuck in your mental status. When you are a loss-based mindset, then you get distracted. You start feeling guilty. You start feeling ashamed that you couldn't, withstand the temptation in the midst of the deprivation that you have. And you make your decisions support alignment in your actions to match who you are, who you're becoming, and you're not trying to be like this survivor. You're not a victim in it. And a lot of times the loss focus looks at us, it frames you as a victim versus a powerful person who makes powerful choices, who makes powerful, committed decisions. And when you do that, your decisions actually support the environment that you live in, the ecosystem that you create, the atmosphere that you set. And everything in your life stops working against what you actually want because you're not focused on trying to stop things, trying to lose something, trying to reactively get away from something. And then you make decisions about how to start so that you feel momentum and that inspiration. You make decisions that don't lead to burnout. You make decisions about recovery. You make decisions about progress. You make decisions about celebration. And you understand that mission drift is what we call it. I'm at point A, I'm going to point B, and oh no, I took a left and I went to Chick-fil-A. It's going to take longer to get to point B. Well, that's just mission drift. You decided to veer off the road a little bit or take a little nap while your car was driving itself. It happens for all of us. Drift is normal. Old patterns try to rise up, try to pull you back in. Cognitive dissonance is this is too hard. There's things in life that just rise up and they try to interrupt you. And then there's things that are chaotic and crisis and urgent. But if you can create a plan that helps you return to the path that you were on towards this gain, then you have mitigated the fact that mission drift happens, but you have a plan about how to get back on track, right? And that's okay. So decisions about integration happen when you're focused on gain instead of loss, because the things that you're doing become part of your daily life, not just this temporary thing. Like, I am going to cut out sugar for 6 months. Completely? I have cut out sugar, but if I have sugar, I don't freak out. If I choose sugar, if it accidentally gets in, like, I didn't know there was sugar in that salad dressing, right? Whatever. It's going to be okay. Like, I'm not trying to lose sugar. I'm trying to gain health. I'm trying to gain clarity instead of brain fog. I'm trying to gain comfort in my body instead of bloating, right? And integration helps you make decisions that make everything you're trying to gain become part of today and every day, instead of like, this is just something I'm trying to lose for a certain amount of time. So there's integration, and that leads to a greater depth of success and celebration and sustainability. And like, you're going to see far greater effects of trying to gain something than you will in a year or 5 from now than you will if you try to lose something in this moment. And then you also end up making decisions about being a good steward when you're focused on gain, because gains are not owned like just once and like that's it, right? They're actually carried forward into the rest of your life. And then gains are something that you protect and you honor and say, like, I did this work. I made this happen. I created this. I went after it. These are my results. And even when your season changes, you can hold on to that gain. It's like a promise fulfilled. So you're not trying to become disciplined enough to stop doing all the things that you've determined are wrong that you need to lose, but you're actually learning how to lead yourself well enough to build what you want, because looking at gain, it creates direction and creates energy and sustainability. So when you think about what you want and look at it of like, what do I have to gain? Then change stops being something that feels like you fighting against you. It starts becoming an actual act of self-leadership, which in coaching, that's the goal of every good coach, is to help other people know how to coach themselves, how to lead themselves well. You don't need to book a session to be coached to figure out how to do this. When you have a great coach, you get tools how to do this without a coach present. Like, you begin to be able to lead yourself well and take personal responsibility and have agency. And I think a lot of women feel conflicted about wanting something more than what they already have. They think the desire is wrong, or they're taught that wanting at all is like dangerous or selfish, right? Or that it might even lead to spiritual compromise. And instead of just asking, like, is this desire or this thing I want even healthy? We have learned to just silence it and suppress it, like just push the mute button on the remote. But desire doesn't, desire doesn't just stop showing up or disappear because you ignore it, right? Like I was talking about earlier, a suppressed desire doesn't become holy because you suppress it. It's still there. A desire that you don't acknowledge or you're not even aware of, it doesn't go away. It just does. It's like it's draining your battery. It's there. It just has no voice. It will find a way to express itself. It just won't be a healthy way, right? So unacknowledged desire is going to show up kind of like out of alignment. It's going to feel upside down or sideways, right? And it's going to be attached to resentment and comparison and numbness, irritability, grief, because it's still there, but it's not allowed to exist honestly and openly, and you can't steward it. You can't integrate it in some healthy way into your everyday life because you're not supposed to have it, right? But when you have something that you want or desire, it doesn't make you against God. It doesn't make you unbiblical. The scripture doesn't teach the absence of desire. It teaches more like an ordering of desire and pursuit. Because God He put desire in our hearts. And a lot of the things we desire are because He put those desires within us. So He is forming it and refining it and teaching us how to carry it without letting it rule us. Wanting to be healthy, it doesn't mean you don't care about your family anymore because you want to go to the gym or you want to stop eating cake every night. Wanting to do some kind of meaningful work when you also have kids at home, it doesn't mean you're abandoning your calling as a mom. Wanting to rest and care for yourself and take a break or take a nap or take a day off or take a vacation, it doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean you're selfish. Wanting growth in your own personal life doesn't mean that you're discontent with what you have, with what God has given you, with the fulfillment of all the things that you always prayed for and now you have them. It doesn't mean you're unthankful for those things just because you want something else. In the kingdom, there's always more. It is okay for you to want more. And there's no shame in that. And when you're hungry for the Lord, it's never satiated. You keep being more hungry because there's more to eat. And it's delicious. And the more you eat in the kingdom of God, the more you can feed other people well. And I think when you suppress desire, it actually costs our people, like our family, our coworkers, our employees, the people that are in our lives, it costs them something for us to suppress our desire. It costs them more than it would cost them if we actually acknowledge that desire and do something about it. When we can't name what we want and we can't ask for support around it, we can't set boundaries, we can't make clean thoughts and clean decisions. So all of the desire that we are suppressing and muting keeps us from looking at what we would have to gain if we pursued it. And so then it leaks out of us like disappointment and disengagement and bitterness, instead of just being open and honest with ourselves and with others and leading from that place. And I think desire becomes dangerous really when it's denied or when it's distorted, if the enemy wants to twist it around, or if it's allowed to rule you without God's wisdom. Then desire, it can become out of alignment against, out of God's will. It can be dangerous or just harmful or just unhelpful. But it's really life-giving when you bring it into the light and you're like honest about it and you submit it to God and then you actually steward it with love and care and responsibility the way you would anything else. Like I wanted my children. And so I voiced that. I want children. And then I got to steward that responsibility. And then I also wanted the ministry we run in Crisis Response International. And then I also wanted a business so I could coach people and train and multiply people who are guides around the world to be able to pour out what they have into other people and build the kingdom of God the way they were designed to uniquely do, right? So I wanted those things. And because I was honest about it with God and submitted it to Him, I was able to be honest with myself and other people. And then those things, they were built and they grew and they became fruitful. And then here we are, You're not wrong for wanting something you don't have. The choice is not whether it's like the thing that you want. The desire is like inexistent at all. It's about what are you going to do with it? Are you going to suppress it, misdirect it, or are you going to look at it and be wise about it and actually look at what you have to gain and move towards it? Be motivated, inspired, and creative, because then you actually have the eyes to look at it unafraid. Be honest, not be ashamed. Submit it to the Lord and see what he has to do with it, right? And it will be hard to get the thing that you want to gain, the desire that you want. The enemy, if it has anything to do with the truth, he will resist you. And that's just normal. That's a different podcast episode. But it's normal. The enemy will resist you. You can expect it. Because when you move towards the truth about who you are, what you're called to do, and who you're called to do life with, and who you're called to serve, and how you reveal the character and nature of your Father that you're designed in his image of, like, the enemy is going to resist that. If what you have to do has anything to do with truth about God, yep. So when we look at wanting gains and desires, it's not something that is separate from faith. And it's not something that I allow to take my eyes off the Lord. I desire these things as I look at Jesus. I desire these things with the mind of Christ. I want to gain this from a place of knowing that God works in and through me, not despite me, not around me, right? I'm not trying to manifest some, my ambition into some positive result. I'm actually just really paying attention to what's already in my heart. Stay submitted to him and just know I'm created in my Father's image. Then the design within me, it matters. The design in you matters. It means the longings that are within you, they're not random and they're not rebellious by nature. They're usually just like this, I think, like an echo. They're like an echo of how he wired you, you're the masterpiece he created. It's an echo of how he moves in your life. And having the mind of Christ doesn't mean you stop wanting anything. It means that what you want is informed by truth. It's shaped and molded by truth. It's matured and grown by truth. But God's not going to bypass the human design to accomplish his purposes. He actually works through our design, through your personality, through your wiring, through the desires and longings that are in your heart as you're walking with him. And you can trust that. And we don't trust that naturally. And people don't tell us to trust it. But you can. So I'm going to just share my own version of what all of this has looked like. I turned 50 recently, and I thought, there are things in my life that I want, and if I'm not willing to do them at 50, I'm not going to probably ever be willing to do them at any other point in my life. If I won't do it now, I probably won't do it later. And I decided, what do I desire? And I got really clear about it. I defined it. And then I said, what do I gain if I move towards this desire? And I don't even need to think about what do I have to lose or what will I lose or what do I have to lose. I just looked at what I actually wanted and what I had, what I wanted to gain in my life. And so I was looking at it specifically around health, and I said, you know what? Especially after the holidays, I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I am tired. I don't sleep well. I have brain fog. I feel bloated. I feel like my face is swollen. And I am generally a pretty healthy eater. We don't do a lot of processed foods. We have a lot of eliminated items in our household because of other dietary needs in my family. So a lot of my life is, I'm completely gluten-free for 10 years now. And so I have a lot less swelling than I did because gluten is inflammatory. And so whether you're allergic to it or not, there's inflammation in your body when you have gluten in your body. And so I knew that the swelling that I felt wasn't coming from that, but it was retained water and fluids. It's the glycogen and all of this stuff going on in my body. And I was like, I just want to get rid of it. So I decided that for just 14 days, my gains and desires were going to be 14 days. I can do anything for 2 weeks. So just knowing, because I was leaving in the beginning of the year, I knew that I had 2 weeks before I flew to Phoenix for conference. I was like, I didn't do anything for 2 weeks. I am going to cut out carbonation because carbonate one half of a can of soda or even just sparkling water, like a seltzer, it just makes me completely bloated. And gas pain refers to your left shoulder. And so I always know when I've had carbonation because my left shoulder, the back of my left shoulder starts hurting. A nurse friend of mine told me, like, I just saved myself an ER visit and thousands of dollars because in the ER, they would see people coming in thinking they had a heart attack because of the pain in their shoulder on the left side and their arm. And really, they just had gas. So I cut out carbonation again because I had started drinking, like, we'd buy the canned seltzers and then I would put a splash of pomegranate juice in it just to give it a little flavor, or even like simply grapefruit. I just love that. And that was adding sugar and through the fruit juice, and it was adding carbonation. So I wasn't feeling good. So I was feeling bloated and kind of like gassy all of the time. And I was like, I want to gain peace in my digestive system. I wasn't looking to lose the bloat. I actually focused on gaining peace in my stomach. I wanted to gain feeling good instead of I have to stop feeling bad, right? I put my focus on what I want to have, and I decided from there, what do I have to do to gain the feel-good peace in my stomach, in my abdomen? And that meant I need to not have carbonation. So I don't drink carbonation. I drink water. I put electrolytes in water bottles, and I enjoy it, and it's good for me. And I was like, that's what I do get to drink is this. And I don't even want the other stuff anymore because I decided what I do drink that makes me feel really good, right? I cut out all sugar. Again, like I don't do really refined white sugar, but I would have like syrup or honey or coconut palm sugar, things like that. Well, I just cut that all out. And I said, for 2 weeks, I don't need any sugar. Like, I need a brain reset. I want my brain to be clear. I have a lot of dreams and vision, and I have a lot of work to get done, and I want to do it. But my brain is like, no, you don't. Go back to bed. I wanted to have the gain of wanting to get out of bed in the morning instead of wanting to stay in bed. I had a desire to feel energy. So I wanted to walk outside or on my treadmill. I wanted to lift weights. I have weights. I need efficiency. So instead of going to the gym anymore, I invested the gym membership money in buying it's like a $250 fold-up treadmill that's in my office, and I can put my computer on the shelf and work, or I can take calls. I don't walk or run really fast, but I get active. And then I bought a cheap set of weights off of Amazon, and they just sit right there. And I would have done this in my bedroom before I had an office in my house, when my office was really in my bedroom. I would have been able to put all of this in there too. So I just spent 14 days doing that, and then I just moved towards what I wanted. And I felt so good. And then when I went to Phoenix, I told myself I have permission. Like, if I want to find a gluten-free dessert, I can have that. But honestly, once I got there, I could have had gluten-free desserts, but I didn't really want them because I was feeling so good without them. I didn't want them. And I wanted protein, and I wanted healthy fats, and I wanted vegetables. And I had done things with that gain-focused mindset that led me to make decisions that felt good to me, that led me to take actions that made me feel good. And now on the other side of Phoenix, I did have some little treats in Phoenix. But when I came home, I was like, I want to do another 2 weeks. So I am just recommitting and reassessing every 2 weeks of what do I want right now? So what could you do that you could just allow what you want right now to show up for you? What could you do to define it and clarify it? And then decide, okay, well, if I want that, What is there to gain in it that I can find inspiration and creativity around? And then what do I need to think, feel, and do to gain that? Then you're going to want to think and feel and do those things because you know that it's leading to something that you want. You want to gain that. Instead of the deprivation, loss-based decision-making that brings guilt and shame and really doesn't inspire you. It's kind of depressing, right? What does that look like for you? How could you gain something? What is in your heart that just for the next 2 weeks or 7 days, 30 days, it doesn't matter what works for you. Give yourself a time period and say, at the end of this time period, I'll reassess and ask myself, did I gain anything? How does it feel to gain that? What kind of results did I create for myself? Did I like the journey? Was I inspired? Did I feel joy in moving towards something that I wanted? Did it feel good? Did anybody suffer when I went after something that I wanted? Did anybody suffer for real? Let's prove to ourselves that we can trust that when we go after what we want, the world will not fall apart. They will keep living without us. My family didn't suffer because I stopped eating things that they were still eating. Honestly, they didn't care. They weren't thinking about me. They were thinking about themselves. And fine, they could still make gluten-free brownies. I just actually don't want it because I don't want to feel the way I'm going to feel tomorrow after having eaten that. I know what I want tomorrow to feel like, and I keep my eyes on that every day for 14 days. And then I ask myself after 14 days, do I still want to feel that way tomorrow? And the answer is usually yes. And what am I willing? If I still eat ice cream, if I want to have a treat of ice cream, I can, but I'm not at a loss and deprivation mindset that tells me, oh, you could never have that. You're wrong. I just make lifestyle decisions around things that I want versus, I don't know, the kinds of things that are box you in. I don't do really well with that. I feel like the testimony of Jesus Christ is to set us free. So God is a very hopeful, inspired, creative being, and I'm made in his image. So I look like him in that way. And so do you. Bless you. Think about what you want. Decide what you have to gain. Give yourself a time period. Decide what you need to do to gain what you want. And try it. See what happens. And let me know. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the show so you don't miss any new episodes. And to learn more about me, my work, and how we can connect, visit sterlingandstonementoring.com or check the show notes. And until next time, remember, all things are possible and figure outable.